Airing on Asheville FM 103.3 LPFM in Asheville, this is The Final Straw Radio, a weekly anarchist and anti-authoritarian broadcasts and podcast emanating out of occupied Chalagi land in southern Appalachia. We bring you voices and perspectives from projects and struggles all around the world, and you can find our archives, transcripts, ways to follow us and support us at thefinalstrawradio.noblogs.org.
Today we talk with members of Femboys Against Fascism, a group based in Liverpool countering anti-migrant protests. The local far-right, along with Patriotic Alternative and other ghouls, have been trying to displace refugees being housed in hotels in and around Liverpool, using the usual fear-mongering tactics about crime and danger. The Femboys have been at the forefront of making it known that migrants are welcome in Liverpool, an historically left-wing city. In our discussion, we talk about different confrontations, the response of locals and the police, and the role trans people have played in facing off with the fash.
I'm sick. You ain't buff me even stepping on you because I don't want shit from nothing. Chasing clout and famous.
Hi there. Thanks for coming and talking to us. Can you introduce yourself with your name, any pronouns that you want to use, and then any affiliation that you want to share with the listeners?
I am Puppy, she, her.
I'm Fi Highs, they, them.
We are representing Femboys Against Fascism, a anti-fascist, absurdist joke starting up in Britain quite recently.
That's a great group name, and I'm really happy to have you here. So just before we get into the group itself, let's start with the situation that's kind of kicked things off. Can you give us some background information about what's been going on, particularly in Liverpool, and what's caused this kind of conflict and what's at stake in it?
So the government had been ramping up anti-refugee rhetoric in the month before, and they'd been previously housing migrants and refugees in hotels and having specific deals with private hotels, like the Suites Hotel in Knowsley, where a fascist riot happened on the 10th of February. And that riot, it was they burnt a cop car. Kind of jealous of them there. There was about 100 anti-fascists to 400 to 500 fascists, mostly older people. There was some weird gender stuff going on that night where the anti-fascists asked the young men to go front, which sounded very, not what you'd want. Right. And from that riot, there's been more anti-refugee backlash in the media. The politicians have had stop the boats on their plinth. And what else? Yeah, there's been a wave of fascist protests across the country outside hotels and a sort of rising fascist movement.
Yeah, and these hotels, they're often in racist areas, and they're not nice places to stay. And they're quite far from anywhere the people being housed in them would really want to be hanging out.
So who's deciding where the refugees get to have housing? Do you think it's particularly, they choose those in particular to put them in a place that will cause conflict?
I think it's so specific politicians have their own deals and relationships with small businesses and big businesses around the city. I think it's, mostly it's just a governmental issue Parliament and the MPs, but local councillors have played a role, the mayor's played a role. Right now there's a thing about sorry to get into this so early, but with one of the fascist leaders, they're actually running because they owned hotels and that, and they wanted deals with the government. But the mayor worked with different small business, different hotels. All the politicians sort of play a role. I don't know the extent to which any individual ones do.
Yeah, I think some of it's just the government just picks hotels and it's done by bureaucrats and they don't really care about where these people are being put. And, some of the more rundown areas that have a lot of racism are the cheaper places.
Right. Yeah, it's just striking me that that's the place where that they like it's a place that's particularly going to cause conflict, huh?
Mm.
Yeah, it's like out in the boroughs, not near the center of the cities. Out in like rural areas that have also been quite deprived since like the 80s and sort of general austerity in Britain.
Right.
But also very white areas.
Very white areas, and there's been like a reactionary backlash bubbling up for a long time, and it's definitely more intense than it has been in like the past 20 years.
And where are the refugees coming from?
Right now, I think there's a lot from Yemen,
Syria,
Kurdistan.
Yeah.
Okay. So not like Ukrainian refugees, right? Like these aren't the kind. We're talking about people from sort of like fleeing conflagrations in like the Middle East and in the areas.
Yeah, like the people targeted are definitely like brown migrants.
Right.
From like, yeah. Ukrainians still get a fair bit. There's been like the far right is also like very pro-Russia and like spray paint Z about the place. So yeah, it's gotten quite rough for everyone, but definitely mostly like darker skinned people.
Got it.
Yeah. The government had like a separate scheme for like Ukrainian refugees. I think that scheme's still got a lot of problems, but it was more like trying to find like spare rooms in people's houses and kind of strange sort of like we're all in this together, nationalism kind of stuff.
Right. Also telling about that the kind of white supremacy comes out and how they treat the different migrants. But I wanted to go back just to a question about that initial riot you were talking about, like the Fash burned the cop car. Is that, or like, and was what in that initial moment, what was the relationship between the police and the fascists? Because we often see that the police will be like protecting fascists rather than them having a kind of straight up conflict.
It's been kind of weird. The Fash were definitely like antagonistic towards the police that night. I think the police, they like protected the anti-fascists, I know, and they were definitely like doing their thing, trying to maintain like respectability for the violence inflicted on the refugees. You know, they didn't want a pogrom happening. That's bad for their image, and you know, yeah, it was quite shameful. The Fash were definitely antagonistic towards the cops. I think that might be something quite local. There's a local antagonism towards the police in Merseyside.
Yeah, it kind of has varying politics to it.
Yeah, like whether you're Fash or you're left wing, you hate the police if you're in Liverpool usually. So it's kind of I think it's a different relate. But then again, the cops were really on the side of the fascists in most of the protests, you know, constantly misgendering and harassing anti-fascists, arresting anti-fascists and not fascists. Yeah,
I think it was probably more like the fascists were so like antagonistic towards the cops, like they shot fireworks at them and brought like sledgehammers.
And they shot themselves.
You know, it turned into more of a fight between the cops and the fascists, even though ideologically they're not that far apart.
Right, yeah. I mean, like that's like the three-way fight analysis too. Like sometimes they side together but sometimes they don't, and we have to fight both sides as like, you know, anti-authoritarians. So is there a group that's behind this, like a single group that's behind the fascist demonstrations, or different groups, and like what's the history with that and who's involved?
Mostly it's like different social media explosions. There's different groups that have been like vaguely associated with it. One is the People's Resistance in Liverpool. They've been associated with Liberate Liverpool, the political party, and also a lot of the fascist protests. They've also, you know, there's Northwest Infidels, which are a racist drug gang, and there's a Patriotic Alternative. They've been doing a lot of stuff around the country. Students Against Tyranny. They're all kind of part of like similar networks, and they communicate with each other. Like it seems like a solid movement built out of like different groups and people on social media, and I don't know who organised specifically the first Knowsley, but I know that like Patriotic Alternative tried to capitalise on it. They claim to have leafleted houses in the area before.
Yeah, and those are so Patriotic Alternative is also a group that does a lot of anti-trans demonstrations too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they all do. It's Britain.
Yeah. So with Liberate Liverpool is a political, is that an actual party though?
Yeah, they've. I don't know if they're registered as a political party. There was a thing about this.
They registered too late for a particular deadline. I think they are now registered.
Yeah, they're a whole other beast to jump into. I think just back onto like the Knowsley stuff. So what caused it would be like a video spread on social media of like a secondary school girl being asked for a number by like an older brown man. There's no like evidence of this having anything to do with the hotel, and it's back to this thing of like social media buzz that exploded as a thing, and local racists sort of connected this incident to the Sweets Hotel, and that sort of it's been like a groundswell. You hear it from taxi drivers and from just your local bigots. A lot of people right now are sort of believing the fascists' lies about refugees being dangerous.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And also just like the ground has been primed a lot for this sort of stuff. Like it's in like government messaging and it's in the newspapers. Like one of the current prime minister's like big things is stop the boats. And you'll see like newspaper headlines about like refugees arriving on boats. And
I mean, they call it an invasion in fucking daily papers. Like there's concentration camps that they're being sent to, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. Yeah, it's gone fucking tense.
Right. So it's like a general atmosphere that's like both like the media, the mainstream politicians, this kind of social media stuff, and then these like fash groups like Patriotic Alternative coming in and like stoking the flames or like just like pulling on the like energy that comes when something like that instance you said of the social media video, like if there's some sort of actual response to that in the neighborhood, then all these other groups can kind of take advantage of that to further this kind of anti-immigrant nationalist fascist idea and energy.
Yeah, like Patriotic Alternative didn't like organize Nazi. They previously tried to organize a protest outside the Swedes like a few days before and not got much traction. And they'd also like claimed to have leafleted. It's unclear if they did. But they're just organizing on their own, didn't do this. Like some of their people were at the riot, but in the footage I've seen, they're not like on the front lines doing stuff.
Yeah, as far as I can tell from the stuff I've learned about Patriotic Alternative, they kind of come in and like take credit for things that they just show up for.
Fascist Socialist Workers' Party.
Yeah, sounds like Nazi, but yeah, they present themselves more like kind of clean cut and stuff.
The joke, sorry. Socialist Workers' Party do that on the left in Britain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like the authoritarian communists and whatever do the same thing. Yeah. So we've gotten a little bit about like what's like the general atmosphere of anti-migrant stuff that's coming from everywhere and like who's sort of showing up to these demonstrations. But what do you make of the people who are countering it? Like, is that organized? Is that also like popular and kind of like people just are pulling in? Like who's part of the opposition to these fascist demonstrations?
So it's been varied. For like the first ones, like for the first one they organised, like the first fascist one in Knowsley, where it was like 100 people turned up. You know, that was all the left groups and, you know, the unions. And then they got kind of bored and scared. Yeah, they got scared. And from that, it's just been like, after like the first swell, I think this happened in Knowsley and in the Wirral. I don't think we mentioned the one in the Wirral, but there was also a fascist protest outside a hotel in the Wirral. And And a similar thing, like, well, Wirral welcomes refugees and Care for Calais and all that came out for the first one, and then it was less people by the next one, and the fascists didn't turn up that night, so that was good. But I think mostly it's just been like small groups of trans people. You've got there was concussive protests in Knowsley after the first one, like every week on a Friday, and you'd have like under 10 trans people sort of there for like 5 hours, and on the other side of the street there's like 50 to 70 like local bigots all revved up shouting, send them back and all that stuff. And yeah, like it's I'm frankly really pissed off at the Liverpool left. They've sort of come out when it's been easy. They've come out in the city centre, but that they don't treat it like these refugees, their lives are in danger and they're getting like more attacks on the streets. They treat it like it's something that they can just sort of like keep to the city centre. We only have to like really come out when the fascists come to the city centre. Yeah, I'm just very pissed off at like that. A lot of people who have very fancy reasons to do nothing is, I think that's the way you put it. I'm not going to take credit for that. But like, yeah, that fancy reasons to like sell the newspaper, and that's the most politically effective thing, and giving speeches at empty buildings, and you don't want to put young activists in danger, and all these kinds of lines and excuses that people use to be like, well, we'll leave it on you, we'll leave it on you, the most oppressed people, we'll leave it on you refugees and trans people to defend yourselves. And yeah, this is like my admonishment, just real quick, of like the Liverpool left.
Yeah, so there's sort of like the kind of main left is like just sticking to more symbolic actions and not following out where all these protests are going into the different like outskirts or rural areas.
Yeah, and I mean, recently on Church Street, there's been like...
where's Church Street?
Oh, sorry. Church Street is the sort of main street of Liverpool. And recently on that street, you've had like the Socialist Workers' Party, the Revolutionary Communist Group, the Socialist Party, all on the same street and then down the road, the Racist Party in the left-wing city of Liverpool. And none of them are doing anything about it. They're all ignoring it, being like, well, it's more important that we sell the newspaper here. And that's how we're most politically effective. They're not going in front of the stall. They're not trying to counter it. They're not counter protesting it. And it's really shameful because it's being left to like a few activists to like really put themselves at risk when they don't have to, when we're supposed to outnumber them anyway in this city. When we do outnumber them, when there's like 12 socialists on the street and 4 racists, and the 4 racists are just getting away with it.
Yeah, that's interesting that you're pointing out like the context of Liverpool politically is more of a left city and known for that, but this issue is not really bringing out people. And I guess I would like to hear more a little bit about like why you think it's trans people that are kind of showing out. Like, is it because of previous kind of organization that the trans people in town have been doing, or is it just because you find like that there's like solidarity amongst the trans people with refugees in the city?
Go
ahead.
Sorry, there's a broad understanding, like a lot of trans people, I think, around the country are feeling, which is just like they're coming for us. That we're facing the biggest scale back in our, legal rights ever in history, and from where it was, and yeah, like there was a murder of a young trans woman in Warrington, like a county neighbouring here, and like I think every trans person in the area is like, well, that, it could be me or the people I love next. And we've kind of come to like a queer nihilist perspective with it. We'll probably go down fighting.
Hopefully not.
But like I think a lot of trans people have that view now of it's, we want to go down with some fight, and that's why it's usually those people doing direct action.
Yeah, and I think it's also like we kind of notice the when bigots get like a win or have successes, we notice it a lot in the streets because they're a lot more confident, like harassing us and stuff. So those kind of connections are, I think, more transparent to us as trans people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. That emboldens them, and like the kind of fascist will attack refugees and trans people. That's like we're the targets for them too. I want to talk a little bit more about like the sort of anti-trans antagonism, but before we get there, could I ask a little bit about like what are there connections with the refugees that you are forming, and like what kind of other solidarity is being done besides sort of countering the fascists? Is there any other kind of work going on in the city or elsewhere to support the migrants?
Care for Calais have been supporting people in the hotel. I don't really know the details of that. Different anti-fascist groups. I think Merseyside Anti-Fascist Network, who we don't get on very well with, they've been supporting some people in the hotel. And the counter demonstrations outside hotels did prevent fascists from like being near the entrance and being audible to the refugees. So, you know, there has been like a groundswell of support. It's not nearly enough. Like, building community is a good thing in terms of like supporting migrants, you know, actually like integration, not just like vapid support from a megaphone or for like bought gifts. And I think that support is a big part of it would be just like realizing that there are people out to get them. And I keep repeating myself. Yeah. And counter demonstrations, I think, is probably the most successful way of supporting them as individuals. Yeah.
But it's definitely a hard situation to like make more personal connections because like the hotels are quite locked down and they're very used to just like having kind of random bigots try and sort of wander in and harass people.
Right.
So it's not really a situation where you want to just go approach people. Like we've had kind of good, like kind of, you know, those sort of small moments in the street you get with people where it's sometimes sort of nice. There's been those sort of things more.
Just solidarity that can like feel in other people in your sort of daily interactions with a bigoted world.
Right, like they'll see the kind of persistence of people supporting them. But I guess also it sounds like the conditions of like, you know, housing them in a particular place that's like under threat and is kind of isolated and separated makes it harder to form solidarity. I don't know if these people are like able to find jobs in town, or are they just kind of like relegated to the hotels most of the time?
Pretty much all of them cannot find jobs because of how like employment law is in the UK. Like if you apply for a job, you have to have like if you apply for like a proper job, you have to have the right to work in the UK and that will get checked. So if you're seeking asylum or you're a refugee, you often just won't have that.
Right. So it's just like total isolation.
Yeah. The kind of border regime in the UK is quite awful and it's quite diffuse because if you want to rent a house, your landlord has to check you have the right to be in the UK and will like check your passport. And similarly, like just having a job. So like the border sort of penetrates.
Right. Yeah.
Those areas.
So going back to your group, like how did you all get together, and did your group start just particularly aiming at this kind of confrontation, or was there other work that you were doing previously that like led into this?
Anti-fascists were already organizing like small stuff as individuals between friends, different people in different groups who are also kind of fed up with how their groups have acted. Some people who aren't in like political groups specifically. It's like, you know, just a few people who trust each other. It's a joke. Like we're quite firm on we're not going to be a real group. We hate the real groups. They're they're very like, I think we've gone into it like that. They're pretentious and they have like these pretensions of grandiosity, and that they end up being like social cults. They restrict people's social lives. They can lead to situations of abuse quite easily. So our way of doing this is we're not a real group, we're a joke, and it kind of exists as a piss take of those other real groups. And you'll see like at demonstrations now, the Trades Union Coalition, the Socialist Workers' Party, Femboys Against Fascism, the Revolutionary Communist Group, and I find that quite funny. We dislike the fascists' claims to. You wanna?
Yeah. Oh, it is a joke as well, but like the concept of the femboy is quite fun. I really enjoy it as a non-binary person, and it's very annoying that sort of this fascist claim to femboys. We want to, disrupt that and take that back and be like, no, it's our thing.
And there's so many groups that have like, especially in Liverpool, it's class. So we just thought, Tran. We'll throw that as our first thing. We've spoken to other groups in the city and we've sort of prodded them and shamed them into doing stuff. They've seen us do stuff and they were like, oh, we can't have them upstage us, and they've done a bit themselves. We've made friends as well. And we're also like, on that note of just friends, like from the entire country, we're hearing like, why is Liverpool's political situation so fucked? Our theory on that is, people are comfortable, people are complicit. You've got a good thing on this?
Maybe. Yeah, like we definitely have heard. We were definitely like, before we kind of like Femboys Against Fascism became a thing, we were hearing from a lot of people we know around the UK, like, the first novelty happened and like what's being done, like
leafleting.
Why is it just being like, what we thought Liverpool was like this left-wing place, and this just seems to be rolling on here, and the effects being felt all across the UK.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the thing is, it is funny to sort of reclaim femboys because it's so strange how that became sort of a part of a fascist meme too. Can you talk a little bit also about, because you were saying it's like an absurdist formation, like does that show up in the ways that you like go to these clashes? Like is it the absurdity beyond just like having the signs of femboys around the kind of more formal left organizations and the awful fascists?
We've decided to make posters. We're gonna do some like absurdist stuff. I'm not sure how much we want to tie ourselves to it right now. But we've been doing like mostly just direct action, because that's what's really been missing in Liverpool is like direct action against this. There's been a lot of that's sort of what came about is like we're the folk, and we've sort of brought together the folk who are like up for direct action, and that's sort of what we're about.
Like in terms of like dress, like it's really depended on like what we're doing and when, like, because so there has been like, we have like used like black bloc and grey bloc tactics, because we are like a bunch of trans people. We do often have to be quite careful about like fascists trying to like dox us and stuff. But some of the protests we go with more of a like fun look. It's just usually the ones where we're not going to have to worry so much about like.
We've got a bunch of cis people to like shroud ourselves in. Cis leftists.
If you want to support The Final Straw Radio, you can subscribe to our podcast via various platforms, follow, rate, and share our materials online, and learn more at tfsr.wtf. And if you'd like to fund our transcription work that allows for easier translation, more accessibility of content, and zines, and the zines that we produce from each interview, consider picking up some merch from us or making a one-time or recurring donation via PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, or LibrePay. Or joining our Patreon to access early release content and other goodies via the links that you can find at tfsr.wtf/support.
Well, yeah. Can we talk a little bit more about like what the clashes have been like that you've seen, and like what's if there's more sort of what the involvement of the police has been, if it's changed over time? Because you said that at first it was like a kind of conflict between the fascists and the police, but it's changed towards the police kind of harassing the anti-fascists. And like, what kind of repression have you faced either from the police or from the fascists, like in because of these different protests?
So after the first Knowsley riot, there was a second one. On the second Knowsley, there was a car search of anti-fascists legally for information gathering. They took pictures of everything they could. There was a non-binary person who was searched by cis men illegally. And that was because there was a bunch of riot cops in a van, and they massively outnumbered the anti-fascists. Constant transphobia from in every interaction we've had with them, intentionally misgendering us. And we've got so much of it recorded as well and just out there. And then, so that was quite a tough night for a lot of people. The anti-fascists managed to like hold out as long as the fascists and prevent them from assembling in front of the gate. But then from the night after that, there was a fascist protest at Lime Street Station, which is right in the city centre. And the anti-fascists massively outnumbered the fascists this time round. And the police were sort of forming a line protecting the fascists. And as they got chased off and people started to disperse, the cops started picking up and arresting anti-fascists, brutally attacking one of the anti-fascists and constantly misgendering and like intentionally misgendering and trying to like pin stuff on the anti-fascists. So one person got slapped with a caution, but there were no charges. So that it was an illegal arrest. And that's not a border of morality, of course. That's just by the police's own logic.
Yeah. The police, we think the police were probably like, when they were just arresting people kind of afterwards, they were probably just trying to gather information and maybe intimidate as well.
Yeah, they tried to get into people's phones. They didn't manage to, but they were trying to get into people's phones with that. Then I think, was it the night after that? Oh no, it was the day after. So 2 days after that, the fascists organised a protest. They organised to have a protest at St. George's Steps, which is one of those big empty buildings that people like to give protests at. And yeah, like 20 to 30 anti-fascists gathered, and fascists kept like coming in like small groups and getting told to fuck off. And the cops sort of kept an eye on that and sort of hung about the area. From that, there's just been every single demonstration we've attended, they're like trying to rile people up, trying to get people, just intentionally misgendering anti-fascists quite constantly, going right up to them and, stepping on them and shit, forcing them back, saying some really like weird shit.
Yeah, with like Knowsley, there were fascist protests. Like after the first one, there were basically ones almost every week. I think they were just trying to like repeatedly kind of call the same thing and get the same thing to happen. Like the anti-fascist crowd was smaller after the first Nazi, because I think a lot of people were quite scared and shaken up by what happened.
I think by the end of it, it was just trans people.
Yeah. So there were just like countless like Friday nights where like on one end of the road you've got the fascists kind of trying to repeat an earlier success, and then a small group of anti-fascists at the other end sticking it out. So it was mostly just like about attrition.
Mm-hmm.
Who could like hold the space and who would keep coming out every week almost.
The anti-fascists outlasted them. I think that's because the anti-fascists brought music and food, and they brought racist banners. So the anti-fascists, and also their love, is stronger than hate. Yeah, I think that's cool to mention. It was a demonstration of love as well, as much as trying to drown out fascists.
Yeah,
yeah,
and like I think you're right in that the fascists aren't as good as they aren't as like good at like preparing for protests. Like they don't think about like, oh, maybe my friend might need some water or might want a snack,
first aid, or
bringing a first aid kit.
What if the cops talk to us?
They're often not as prepared for like holding the space for as long. And I think like eventually the fascist protests at Nazi did stop. And I think that was in large part due to the fact that like they weren't getting where they wanted to be because of the anti-fascists, and their numbers were dwindling because of that. There were also a couple of fascist demonstrations in another area of Merseyside, the Wirral, that were less big and eventually kind of petered out. So currently there aren't consistent fascist protests outside hotels in Merseyside. Unfortunately, these kind of style of protests are still kind of making their way across the UK. I think they're getting largely beaten in other areas of the UK. But there have been a lot of them inspired by like the first Nazi one. Like the Nazi, I might be rambling, but the first Nazi one wasn't like the first kind of attempt at this sort of protest. Like various figures had been trying this sort of thing for a while. Like Nigel Farage tried to get a similar thing going a couple of years ago, but it didn't really take in the same way. And it didn't really kind of explode across the country in the same way.
Right. Can you talk a little bit more about like how the struggle is showing up in the north and in Liverpool and that area, and like how it connects to things going on in other parts of the UK? So you're saying it seemed to sort of spread, but the show up is different in other places, which I guess is like counter intuitive, because you said that Liverpool seems like a place that would be like showing up more in force.
I think some of it is that like Liverpool has this reputation, so it makes kind of a success here count more for like the right wingers, because they can see, oh, they did it in Liverpool, we could probably do it here where it's less left wing.
They've got like placards saying we're not far right racists, just concerned parents. So they're trying to like de-tie themselves from openly fascist movement,
right?
Or at least not make it obvious.
I think there is also an element of like when like right wingers and fascists see something working, they'll try and repeat it elsewhere. And so you can get a rash of like copycats. Like this even results in some kind of silly things, like following like the truckers convoy in Canada. There were like fascist groups in the UK trying to do their own truckers convoy, which just doesn't work the same way in the UK, and like just went nowhere.
So with the concerned parent thing sounds familiar, because that's like the rhetoric that's being used by the right here, specifically in kind of anti-trans stuff, but also like in terms of like fighting anti-racist education. So it's just interesting to hear that they're invoking that too. And I guess like that's my other question. Like, since the UK is known for being a particular hotbed of anti-transness, if you wanted to talk a little bit about how you see kind of beyond just Liverpool, where it's a trans group that's showing up, but like how you see connections between this kind of migrant support struggle and the support for trans people against the attacks by the right wing and the state itself.
The anti-fascist movement in response to the fascist protests and the fascist groundswell has been almost entirely trans people. Almost everyone who's been on the direct actions, especially the more risky ones, and especially some of the longer ones, trans. That's all across the country. There's, like north to south, Wales to Scotland, we're all feeling it. And like there's specifically like a groundswell of like trans anarchists who, they're quite furious with the state of things. They kind of have this understanding that like Britain's against them, and we've got to like build our own communities and look out for each other and look out for people we can build community with. And like I think just trans people know that they're the target right now. So like it's all across the country. Like in any like serious that's very rude of me. Any sort of direct action anti-fascist group that's not sort of ran in a a hierarchical way where they end up doing nothing. It's trans people, throwing themselves in the front of it. Makes me proud to really. I mean, I'm already proud to be trans, but more.
Yeah.
I think like transphobia is also just like it's the norm for like the political parties in the UK. Both the main parties, Labour and the Tories, use it and like tolerate it within their ranks, and will like use transphobic rhetoric. I think there's also like kind of subtler aspects that come out in the government messaging. Like when they talk about refugees, they'll often talk about like the figure of the male refugee, and as like this sort of violent figure, and use this idea of an essentialized male threat.
They're using gender also as part of the attempt to whip up like kind of violence against migrants, with a kind of typical appeal to like fear from racialized men. Which I see that connection to the anti-trans stuff too, because like when they talk about trans women, they always are just saying like these are actually scary men in disguise.
That's precisely what I was trying to say. That like it's this kind of idea of an essentialized maleness that's placed upon people to say these people are like bad and dangerous, and we should do bad things to them.
Right.
Yeah, and there's like a problem in the movement. I think it's worth mentioning that local political groups, especially in Liverpool, because the history of the socialist city, the supposedly anarchist groups, the socialist groups have a massive transphobia problem. The leaders of the local socialist groups will casually misgender the trans members and then sort of fake apologize afterwards. The anarchists in the city, some of them, I'd say a lot of them have kind of proven that they're quite not willing to stand against transphobia. They're quite happy to have transphobes come at their events and participate in their stuff. Again, for sort of security, I won't go more into that. But there's a sort of local massive problem in like the political groups that are supposed to be pro-trans, just completely ignoring trans people. We mentioned sort of feeling more harassed in the street and getting attacked more. And
yeah, and there are like a fair amount of like organized fascists in the UK. Like there's not loads of them, but there are some, and they don't all have like exactly the same ideology. Like some of
Giants.
they do have differences, yeah. But you'll see like occasionally like, you know, people from different kind of fascist tendencies will still turn up to like the same demonstrations because they all love like transphobia and racism. So they'll still turn up for things, but it's usually different groups organizing things. Not always. Like I think some of the like the anti-drag queen protests have been called by like particular fascist groups that also usually call things around like well, racism and trying to protest hotels.
Yeah, if I could just go into like the People's Resistance and Students Against Tyranny, they're like the two sort of one. They're two of the like ones that have been organising a lot of stuff. Should I go into
fascist groups, right?
Yeah, those are sort of like openly like hard right. I'm not sure how much they admit that they're fascists, but like the People's Resistance, they've got a public telegram. You know, on that stuff, you see like just slur after slur after slur by all their members. And Liberate Liverpool are closely tied with the People's Resistance. I think it's worth just having a rundown of who they are and what they're about. They masquerade as anti-corruption. You know, it's a classic fascist strategy to be anti-corruption because every politician's corrupt, so they can use that as a sort of wedge. And there's a sort of dissatisfaction with Labour because, you know, it's Labour being enacting the austerity and enacting the racism and the transphobia in Liverpool. Labour's had power there for a very long time, so they sort of feeding on people's dissatisfaction with that. You know, the leader is basically a local business owner who wanted deals with the mayor, but because the mayor dealt with other people, sort of started their own campaign. It's built around a lot of like different groups, so they're basically as quite tied to each other with the People's Resistance and also a soup kitchen, which is quite scary because it's that community connection is what a thing they've really been trying to build out. They said that they're like, what, you know, house the homeless, and by that they mean house the homeless, not refugees. They've been holding street stalls against what they call 15-minute cities. You can explain this well, yeah.
Oh, it's an entire thing, but the short version of it is it's
anti-Semitic.
Yeah, well, most conspiracy theories get anti-Semitic when you dig into them. But like 15-minute cities is like one of the current right-wing things in the UK because of some like proposed changes Oxford City Council were making to like how people can drive around Oxford to make it less congested. It's quite like boring, like technocratic stuff, but it has some kind of scary sounding proposals in it, like increased use of license plate readers to kind of divide the city into zones.
And what they've took from that, and I just want to mention it in their papers, is fencing off communities.
Yeah. When it's only really about like it's sort of like congestion zones really, but just for like, instead of actually, like lots of cities do this sort of stuff, but they usually do it with like infrastructure, like making roads one way or like turning them into dead ends so that you can't just, so that, you know, annoying people can't just drive their cars through like your small street. But because these sort of people are very like car obsessed and sort of identify with their freedom. Any kind of move to make things a bit nicer for other people, like people cycling or walking, is sort of seen as an affront to them. And like, admittedly, the Oxford proposal is a bit weird because it entails like way more license plate readers and like keeping counts of how many times people have been in certain areas and charging them if they've done particular journeys too many, instead of just changing infrastructure, which is a way more sensible thing to do. So there's been like weird protests in Oxford about this by like right-wing conspiracy groups, and it's become like the new go-to thing that they're sort of trying out, even if it isn't really that, it's not really that interesting. So they sort of have to make it interesting by adding on a bunch of like conspiracies about how like the government is going to track everywhere you are and fine you if you move outside your neighborhood, and usually just sort of admit that like it's about tracking where cars go.
Quickly on to Liberate Liverpool. They've been like including on their street stall like ex-CDL members and like known fascists. They try and keep their chants like subtle to like anti-corruption and just liberate Liverpool, but they're sort of trying to have a pastiche of not being a fascist group. They've been running in local council elections. One of the people had to resign from running from that because there was anti-fascists went into their social media and that and dug up them, you know, using excessive slurs and talking about like the need to like wipe out sexual degenerates. There's a lot of stuff in their sort of social media and in their like networking that's very tied to like American conspiracism. You see a lot of stuff that's from like, you know, it's QAnon stuff, and it's really penetrated. Yeah, that's just some stuff I thought worth mentioning about them. Yeah, they've also they're trying to do like a postering game, but they seem to have money behind them. They seem to have like small business money behind them, a bunch of different local small businesses, because you know that they've got a lot of materials and they've been having like people put up their posters professionally before they get ripped down, of course. You know, yeah, I think that's. Is that it? Oh, should we mention where they've been meeting? Or this isn't really, this isn't really for local audience, is it? Yeah, no, it's sound.
Well, it's interesting too that the Liberate Liverpool like name is like confusing because that sounds like a good thing to liberate Liverpool, but what they're talking about is like specifically for like white Liverpool citizens, and they're actually also talking about something that's like more restrictive than anything else. So I can see how that would like be confusing and a way to kind of recruit people who are living in such hard means, because I know even like just with the winter and the oil shortage and everything, like things have been difficult and getting worse for everyone in the UK and everywhere obviously too. But so I guess like continue on this line, just like I'm interested in like what you think is the kind of struggle, the relationship between the struggle on the street and then like what the political struggle, like how it's playing out in the kind of political realm, like if you have thoughts on that.
I think the Liberate Liverpool stuff is kind of opportunistic from a few things. Like they saw what happened in Knowlesley and thought Liverpool is a bit more ready for like a fascist political party. And there's also there was like a big corruption scandal with Liverpool Council, enough that like the mayor had to step down.
Joe Anderson left and then Joe Anderson took over.
Yeah, it's quite funny. The Labour mayor was called Joe Anderson. He had to step down and got replaced by a new Labour mayor, also called Joe Anderson.
Oh, weird.
So they're really selling us on like things changing there.
It's not hard to run against the Labour Party. Fucking hell, that's the sad thing, really. Yeah, like people don't feel like they have options politically. I feel like a lot of people are going to vote for the fascists out of spite to Labour this time round. Maybe not even really go into it about what they're about.
I kind of disagree. I think, yeah, I'm just going to say it. I don't think they'll get in. I think they have a few chances to maybe get a councillor or two.
Kirkdale.
There's council elections coming up on the 4th of May. And there is some changes to like Liverpool Council in that the wards have been redrawn. So there's less of like established candidates for places. But the way these things usually go is like nobody knows who any of the council are that much. So you just sort of walk in and be like, "Ooh, I'm a Labour voter or I'm a Green voter," and then you tick next to those people. And you don't really think about it too much. And independents didn't get in last time there were council elections. I think maybe Liverpool could get a councillor, but I'm not too worried about it. I feel like we're on different sides of this.
Oh, very different. My opinion of it is there's not been a fascist movement like this in Britain for a very long time, and there's so little resistance right now that I think they could take a few council seats. And it's they're running the People's Resistance are also running like all the different ones. They're trying to like worm their way in as much as they possibly can into like even if it's not the local council, it'd be like school boards, all that kind of stuff. Trying to get in to positions of authority and positions of power.
Yeah, there's a similar tactic happening here. Well, yeah, I mean, so I guess like, my kind of last question is sort of like, what kind of support do you need from people who are not in the area, and like, how do you see things going for your struggle in the coming, months? And then also like places to connect and find you all.
I think there is kind of stuff that people in other cities can sort of take and learn and from kind of our experiences. Like Liverpool has this like mythos and reputation about being a left-wing city. And I think that's actually been quite toxic for it. For people in Liverpool, like taking things more seriously and organising to actually counter rising fascism and hate, because you'll hear people like talk about like how Liverpool's a left wing, say it's a socialist city last time, and like before Knowlesy, there was a lot of talk about a time when fascists tried to march in Liverpool and they got ran out, met by a big crowd.
The legendary day of 2015, when we, the Liverpool people, the brave Scousers, defeated the fascists. Mythologized.
Yeah. And people don't talk about that so much now because it was kind of used to pretend that more would happen, or like people sort of rested on this mythology instead of like doing effective things. It's not like Knowlesy probably wasn't the first time that showed that this kind of mythology isn't really what it's chalked up to be. When there was a Labour Party conference in Liverpool, there was a turf meeting in Liverpool. And if you kind of believe sort of the mythology, that would get strongly opposed by big crowds, and it wasn't. Like, it was small crowds. Like, people did stuff. Like, people tried to shut down the meeting, but it wasn't like thousands of people. It was very small groups.
Yeah, and I think like this is a sort of appeal from both of us to like anyone. Please, do what you can to prevent fascists from assembling, and please don't be complacent in a city's reputation, and please engage in indirect action to protect our neighbours and our friends and just other people. I think the big sort of result of all this is a lot more bigots are feeling a lot more emboldened just for street harassment recently. It feels like things are just getting worse there, but we can fight back and we can bash back. And if you're local to Liverpool, you don't need to like get in touch with us. That's not what we recommend. I mean, you can, and we'll happily do stuff with you, but you can do stuff yourself, and with your friends, and form your own little groups of people you trust and do direct actions. Don't believe in like the leaders of these socialist groups and these other groups being like, we need to sit around and do nothing. Believe in what you think is right, and just that.
Is there a place to find you or like to keep up with what's going on?
We're on Twitter.
Can you remember what it is?
Femboys against fascism.
Cool.
Oh, the @ is Femantifa on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. So people can sort of see what's going on there.
That's what we'll keep public.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we end our conversation?
Yeah, like I wish we'd have more I think this is applicable most places. I wish there'd be more protests that weren't just shouting at empty buildings and don't get pulled into these there's a lot of kind of cults and not nice groups that will kind of try and redirect your energy. You just sort of serve them or sell their newspaper.
Preserve the group. We can't do this thing. Gotta keep the group going.
Brand building exercises. Just say, try not to get caught up in that.
Fucking hell, the brand building exercises. Oof.
Yeah. There's a lot of frustration too in just repeating the kind of pointless march or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important what you are all saying about showing up against the fascists, because that's not just a symbolic chanting at an empty building, but showing up where people are trying to do harm and countering it, and also just showing them that they can't just take to the streets and be unopposed. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking and sharing sharing what's going on. And as things come up, I want to get updates and just sending solidarity to the Femboys in Liverpool who are holding it down against the fascists, despite a general kind of laziness about doing that in the so-called socialist city.
Yeah, thank you so much. We love you. We'll stay in contact. We'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah, sending all my love.
Listen to it. So you're mad that I called my track Lang Lloyd cause you say that's your childhood name. But I know for a fact that's cat cause no one is calling you Lang with that face. You a jealous pettiness and I'm really not impressed. Leverage your privilege to try and bury me for dead. But one thing that you forget is that I'm the fucking best. Ain't just any other bitch and now I'm coming for your head. Miss Chung and she, I know you hella jelly, you can never be she. I am that bitch, princess she. Bombay queen, in the hot country. Oh wow, that's me, 屌大要血. If I catch you in the streets you say 干掉你. Kim know what you beef, because you ain't the only ones with receipts. Too many patsy bitches could never be me. I'm about my business, on the ball with that bitch, get left in stitches. One girl army, gang enlisted. Too many patsy bitches, I'll give you a reason for you to be victim. War with that bitch, get left in stitches. Run up on her offer, get finished. Patsy bitches, plenty bitches. Empty bitches. Too many patsy bitches. I would like it when I love some bitches. Plenty bitches. Many patsy bitches. Double T, why that's pay. Receipts get read every time it gets messy. Double T, why that's pay. Receipts get read every time it gets messy.
This is The Final Straw Radio. This show will later be archived at thefinalstrawradio.noblogs.org, and you can email us with questions and suggestions at thefinalstrawradio@riseup.net or thefinalstrawradio@protonmail.com. If you'd like to use any episode for your project or radio show, feel free to do so. Just send us an email to let us know. If you care to, you can send us letters at TFSR, P.O. Box 6004, Asheville, North Carolina, 28816. This show is brought to you by Firestorm Books. Located at 610 Haywood Road in West Asheville, Firestorm Books is a worker-owned cooperative in Asheville specializing in offbeat, underground, and independent literature. You can find a catalog of Firestorm's books and zines, plus a full calendar of events at their website, firestorm.coop.